Morning, boys and girls. I'll read to you today Roald Dahl's great book called The Enormous Crocodile. It's a little longer than some of my other stories, but he's such a great storyteller that I thought we'd have it. In the biggest, brownest, muddiest river in Africa, two crocodiles lay with their heads just above the water. There they are. One of the crocodiles was enormous, and one was not so big. "Do you know what I'd like for lunch today?" the enormous crocodile said. "No," the not so big one said. "What?" The enormous crocodile grinned, showing hundreds of little white sharp teeth. "For my lunch today," he said, "I would like a nice, juicy little child." "I never eat children," the not-so-big one said. "Only fish." "Ho, ho, ho," cried the enormous crocodile. "I bet if you saw a fat, juicy little child paddling in the water over there at this very moment, you'd gulp him up in one gulp." "No, I wouldn't," said the not-so-big one. "Children are too tough and chewy. They are tough and chewy and nasty and bitter." "Tough and chewy?" cried the enormous crocodile. "Tasty and bitter? What awful tummy rot you talk. They are juicy and yummy." "They taste so bitter," said the not-so-big one. "You have to cover them with sugar before you can eat them." "Children are bigger than fish," said the enormous crocodile. "You get bigger helpings." "You are greedy," the not-so-big one said. "You are the greediest croc in the whole river." "I'm the bravest croc in the whole river," said the enormous crocodile. "I'm the only one who dares to leave the water and go through the jungle to the town to look for children to eat." "You've only done that once," snorted the not-so-big one. "And what happened then? They all saw you coming and ran away." "Ah, but today when I go they won't see me at all," said the enormous crocodile. "Of course they'll see you," the not-so-big one said. "You're so enormous and ugly they'll see you for miles around." The enormous crocodile grinned his crocodile grin. "Nobody will see me," he said, "because this time I've thought up clever plans and secret tricks." "Clever plans and secret tricks? You've never done anything clever in your life. You're the stupidest croc in the whole river," said the not-so-big one. "I'm the cleverest croc in the whole river," said the enormous crocodile. "For my lunch today, I shall feast upon a nice, juicy, fat child, while you lie here in the river feeling hungry. Goodbye." And the enormous crocodile swam to the side of the river and crawled out of the water. A gigantic creature was standing in the slimy, oozy mud. It was Humpy Rumpy, the hippopotamus. "Hello," said Humpy Rumpy. "Where on earth are you off to at this time of day?" "I have secret plans and clever tricks," said the croc. "Oh dear," said Humpy Rumpy. "I bet you're going to do something horrid." The enormous crocodile grinned at Humpy Rumpy and said, "I'm going to fill my hungry, empty tummy with something yummy, yummy, yummy." "What's so yummy?" said Humpty Rumpty. "Try to guess," said the crocodile. "It's something that walks on two legs." "You don't mean," said Humpty Rumpy, "you don't really mean you're going to eat a little child?" "Of course I am," said the crocodile. "Oh, you horrid, great, greedy, grumptuous brute," cried Humpty Rumpty. "Hope you get caught and cooked and turned into crocodile soup." The enormous crocodile laughed his crocodile laugh and waddled off into the jungle. Inside the jungle, he met Trunky, the elephant. Trunky was nibbling leaves from the top of a tree. He didn't notice a croc at first, so Croc bit him on the leg, as crocs do. "Ow!" said Trunky. "Who did that?" "Oh, it's you, you beastly croc. Why don't you go back to that big browny muddy river where you belong? I have secret plans and clever tricks, said the croc. You mean you have nasty plans and nasty tricks, said Trunky. You've never done a nice thing in your life. The enormous crocodile grinned as crocodile grinned and said, I'm off to find a yummy child for lunch. Keep listening and you'll hear the bones go crunch. Oh, you wicked beastly beast, cried Trunky. Oh, you foul, filthy fiend. Hope you get squashed and squished and squizzled and boiled up into crocodile stew. And the enormous crocodile laughed as crocodile laughed, disappeared into the jungle. A bit further on, he met Mugglewump. Yes, you guessed it, he's the monkey. He was sitting in a tree eating nuts. Hi, Crocky, said Mugglewump. What are you up to now? I have secret plans and clever tricks, said the crocodile. Would you like some nuts? I have better things to eat than nuts, sniffed the crocodile. I didn't think there was anything better to eat than nuts, cried Mugglewump. Aha, said the enormous crocodile. The sorts of things I'm going to eat have fingers, toenails, arms and legs and feet. Mugglewump went pale and began to shake on. You aren't going to gobble up a little child, are you? He said. Of course I am, said Crocodile. Clothes and all, they taste better with their clothes on. Oh, you horrid hoggish croc, cried Mugglewump. You slimy creature. Hope the buttons and buckles all stick in your throat and you choke to death. The crocodile grinned as crocodile grinned at Mugglewump. I eat monkeys too. And quick as a flash, with one bite of his huge jaws, he bit through the tree that Mugglewump was sitting in, and down it came. But just in time, Mugglewump had jumped to the next tree and swung through the branches. A bit further on, the enormous crocodile met the roly-poly bird. There's roly-poly, by the way. Can you see him? Yeah. And that's Mugglewump escaping. And I should show you Trunky. There's Trunky over there. There's Trunky. And there is Humpty Rump. The roly-poly bird was building a nest in an orange tree, as roly-poly birds do. Hello there, enormous crocodile, sang the roly-poly bird. We don't often see you in the jungle. Ah, said the crocodile, I have secret plans and clever tricks. I hope it's not something nasty, said Roly-Poly. Nasty? Cried the crocodile. Of course it's not nasty, it's delicious. It's luscious, it's super, it's muscious, it's duper. It's better than rotten old fish. You mash it and munch it, you chew it and crunch it. It's lovely to hear it go squish. Must be berries, said Roly-Poly Bird. Berries are my favourite food in the world. Raspberries? Strawberries? The enormous crocodile laughed as crocodile laughed. Crocodiles don't eat berries, he said. They eat little boys and girls. And sometimes we eat roly-poly birds as well. And very quickly, the crocodile reached up and snapped his jaws at Roly-Poly. He just missed the bird, but he managed to catch hold of the long, beautiful tail feathers. Roly-Poly gave a shriek of terror and shot straight up in the air. At last, the enormous crocodile came out on the other side of the jungle into the sunshine. And there he is having a go at Roly-Poly, and here he's coming up into the sunshine. He could see the town not far away. Ho, ho, he said, talking to himself. Ha, ha, that walk through the jungle has made me hungrier than ever. One child isn't going to be nearly enough for me today. I won't be full up until I've eaten at least 3 fat, juicy children. He started to creep towards the town. The enormous crocodile crept over a place where there were a lot of coconut trees. He knew that the children from the town often came here looking for coconuts. The trees were too tall for them to climb, but there were always some coconuts on the ground that had fallen down. The enormous crocodile quickly collected all the coconuts that were lying on the ground. He also gathered several fallen branches. Now for clever trick number 1, he whispered to himself. It won't be long before I'm eating the first part of my lunch. And he took all the coconut branches and held them together between his teeth. He grasped the coconuts in his front paws, and he stood straight up in the air, balancing himself on the end of his tail. He arranged the branches and coconuts so cleverly that he now looked exactly like a small coconut tree standing among the big coconut trees. And there we have a picture of him. See? There's the enormous crocodile. Soon 2 children came along the path. They were brother and sister, Toto and Mary. They walked around looking for fallen coconuts, but they couldn't find any because the enormous crocodile had gathered them all up. "Oh, look," cried Toto. "That tree over there is much smaller than the others, and it's full of coconuts. I think I could climb that quite easily if you help me up the first bit." Toto and Mary ran towards what they thought was a small coconut tree. The enormous crocodile peered through the branches. Watching as they came closer and closer, he licked his lips and began to dribble with excitement. Suddenly there was this enormous swooshing noise. It was Humpty Dumpty. Yeah. He came crashing and snorting out of the jungle. His head was down low and he was galloping at a terrific speed. "Look out, Toto," said Humpty Dumpty. "Look out, Mary, that's not a coconut tree. It's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you up." And he charged straight at the enormous crocodile. There's Humpty Dumpty. He caught him with his giant head, and he sent him tumbling and skidding over the ground. "Ooh!" cried the crocodile. "Help! Stop! Where am I?" And Toto and Mary ran as fast as they could back to the town. But crocodiles are tough. It's difficult even for a hippopotamus to hit them. The enormous crocodile picked himself up, dusted himself off, and crept towards the place where the children's playground was. "Now for clever trick number 2, he said to himself. "This one is certain to work." And he found a large piece of wood and placed it in the middle of the playground. Then he lay across the piece of wood and tucked in his feet, so he looked almost exactly like a seesaw. When school was over, the children all came running out onto the playground. "Oh, look," they cried, "we've got a new seesaw." "Bags, I go first. I'll go on the other end. I want to go. So do I. So do I." Then the girl who was older than the others said, "It's a rather funny, knobbly sort of a seesaw, isn't it? Do you think it's safe to sit on?" "Of course it will be," the other said. "It looks as strong as anything." The enormous crocodile opened one eye. Just a tiny bit, and he watched the children who were crowding around. Soon he thought, "One of them is going to sit on my head, and then I'll give a jerk and a snap. After that it will be yum, yum, yum." At that moment there was a flash of brown, and something jumped into the playground and hopped up onto the top of the swings. It was Mugglewump. "Run, Mugglewump!" shouted to the children. "All of you, run, run, run! That's not a seesaw. It's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you up." The children screamed and ran for their lives. Mugglewump disappeared back into the jungle. And so the enormous crocodile was left all alone in the playground. He cursed that monkey and waddled back into the bushes to hide. "I'm getting hungrier and hungrier," he said. "I'll have to eat at least 4 children now before I'm filled up." He crept round the edge of the town, taking care not to be seen, and he came to a place where they were getting ready to have a fair. There were slides and swings and dodgem cars and people eating popcorn and candy floss. There was also a big merry-go-round. The merry-go-round had wooden creatures for the children to ride on. There were white horses and lions and tigers and mermaids with fish tails and fearsome dragons with red tongues sticking out of their mouth. "Now for clever trick number 3, said the enormous crocodile. When no one was looking, he crept up to the roundabout and put himself between a lion and a fearsome dragon. He sat on his back legs, and he kept very still He looked exactly like a wooden crocodile on a roundabout. There he is. Soon all sorts of children came flocking out to the fair. Several of them ran towards the roundabout and they were very excited. "I'm going to ride on the dragon," cried one. "I'm going to ride on a white horse," said another. "I'm going to ride on a lion," cried the third. And one little girl, whose name was Jill, said, "I'm going to ride on that funny old wooden crocodile." The enormous crocodile kept very still. But he could see the little girl coming towards him. "Yummy, yum, yum," he said. "I'll gulp her up easily in one gulp. Ha, ha, ha." Suddenly there was a swish and a swash, and something came swishing and swashing out of the sky. It was the roly-poly bird. He flew round the roundabout, saying, "Look out, Jill! Look out! Don't ride on the crocodile!" Jill stopped and looked up. "That's not a wooden crocodile," sang Roly-Poly. "It's a real one. It's the enormous crocodile from the river, and he wants to eat you up." Jill turned and ran. So did all the other children. Even the man who was working the merry-go-round jumped off it and ran away as fast as he could. The enormous crocodile was very annoyed with Roly-Poly, and he waddled back into the bushes to hide. "I'm so hungry now," he said. "I could eat 6 children." Just outside the town there was a pretty little field with trees and bushes and all around. It was called the picnic place. There were several wooden tables and long benches, and people were allowed to go there and have a picnic at any time. The enormous crocodile crept over to the picnic place. There was no one in sight. "Now for clever trick number 4, he said. He picked a lovely bunch of flowers and arranged them on the table. From the same table, he took away one of the benches and hid it in the bushes. There he is. He's a very clever crocodile. Then he put himself in the place where the bench had been. By tucking his head under his chest and by twisting his tail out of sight, he made himself look like a bench to sit on. Soon 2 boys and 2 girls came carrying baskets of food. They were all from one family, and their mother said they could go out and have a picnic together. "Which table shall we sit at?" said one. "Let's take the table with the lovely flowers on it," said another. The enormous crocodile kept as quiet as a mouse. "I shall eat them all," he said. "They will come and sit on my back, and I will swizzle my head around, and after that it will be squish, crunch, gulp." Suddenly, a deep voice from the jungle shouted, "Stand back, children! Stand back! Stand back!" The children stopped and stared at the place where the voice was coming from. Then, with a crashing of the branches, Trunky Elephant came rushing out of the jungle. There's Trunky there. "That's not a bench you're about to sit on," he bellowed. "It's the enormous crocodile, and he wants to eat you up." And Trunky trotted over the spot where the enormous crocodile was standing. Quick as a flash, he wrapped his trunk around the crocodile's tail and hoisted him up in the air. "Hey, let me go!" yelled the enormous crocodile, who was now dangling upside down. "Let me go! Let me go!" "No," Trunky said. "I will not let you go. We've all had quite enough of your secret plans and clever tricks." And Trunky began to swing the crocodile round and round the air. At first he swung slowly, and then he swung faster and faster and faster and faster still. And then he let go. Suddenly, Trunky let go of the crocodile's tail, and the crocodile went shooting high up into the sky like a huge green rocket. Up and up he went, higher and higher, faster and faster. He was going so fast, so high, that soon the earth was just a tiny dot, miles below. He was on and on. He was far into space. He whizzed past the moon. He whizzed past stars and planets, until at last, with the most enormous bang, he hit the sun and he sizzled like a sausage. And that's the end of the story. Well, poor old Croc, but he was a nasty croc, wasn't he? Secret plans and clever tricks. But he's a bit silly telling the other creatures in the jungle what he was up to beforehand, wasn't he? And it's just as well the other creatures looked out for the children. Well, that's a nice Roald Dahl story with an enormous crocodile. Have a nice week.